This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
A little bit of a slower time kind of on the national scene. College hoops hasn't really picked up yet. But, to your point, credit to the powers that be at these TV networks. No football this weekend obviously makes for a great Saturday and Sunday of basketball.
Yeah, you got a ton of really good games that you could focus on. Some ranked matchups. I want to know what you think of South Carolina right now. This is a team that beat Arkansas.
By the way, so how long have we been doing this for? This has to be the first time you've ever asked me about South Carolina basketball. We've been doing this, 8 years, 7 years?
Yeah.
It's got to be the first time, right?
Yeah, but there's a reason why they're part of the talk of the SEC right now. Lamont Jordan has turned them around, and look at this team that was picked last in the SEC. I think the preseason predictions really haven't meant something for a long time. Now they really don't mean anything, but they can straight up D up. And if you get a win in Knoxville just a week after you beat Kentucky, people are going to stand up and take notice. Carolina's for real.
I think 1,000%, and it was funny, seeing the reaction from Big Blue Nation after that loss 2 weeks ago. I remember sitting there saying, guys, this is a real team. Now, I didn't think they were going to Knoxville, so I'm not going to try and pretend and take credit for that. But why I bring it up, what I would give them credit for more than anything, I think they, more than any other team, make you play their game. Every team in the SEC is a little bit different. Styles are a little bit different, whatever. But what stands out to me about them, and this is why I thought they had real success against Kentucky, and why I didn't think they would have success against Tennessee, because Tennessee kind of plays a sort of similar style. They're going to play super slow. They're going to get back in transition. They're not going to let you get a lot of transition points. And they are going to make you play in the half court in a slow style of game. They're going to get rebounds. They're going to defend. It's just, I haven't seen a team, because every team says, oh, yeah, we defend and we hit the boards and we're going to limit transition points. It's like, but when it's time to do it, not every team can do it. And so I give them credit because I think they make you play their game as well as anybody in college basketball. And I'll say this, I think it's a little early to really start looking at, realistic, who's going to win just because of the schedules. There's still so much of the season. But you start to look at the schedule, they have it kind of imbalanced in a way where actually a lot of their tougher games are basically behind them. And I don't think it's inconceivable that we could be talking about South Carolina basketball as your SEC regular season champ. As I said, a long way to get there, but I don't think it's inconceivable.
Man, that would be crazy. Yeah, I think Tennessee's still the most talented team. Auburn's they're so deep as well. Another team I like is Florida. You talk about different than South Carolina. They're going to fast break. They got athletes everywhere. If I was to ask you, Aaron, Florida or Kentucky? I know Florida just went into Kentucky and beat them, but which one of those teams do you think has the better upside?
Well, Kentucky was without two starters. Now, one of the starters is not playing well, and I don't think the fan base was particularly upset that he didn't play the other day. I would still probably say Kentucky, but it was funny. I was watching Florida on last Saturday. They were playing Georgia at home, and they were up by 1 million points, and they kind of blew the lead and whatever. And I said, this is one of the 25 most talented teams in college basketball, and they were – I don't do a ton of bracketology this time of year, but they were kind of Lenardi's, last four out, first four in, whatever. And I said, if this team does not make the NCAA tournament, and obviously if nothing major happens, that is a direct indictment on that coaching staff. And so credit to them. They held on against Georgia. They took care of business against Kentucky on Wednesday night. And I really think when you start talking about teams, because when you get to the NCAA tournament, everybody focuses on a lot of different things, but one thing that I always look for, can you win a high-scoring game? Because there are certain teams that they can be great in the regular season against inferior competition. Then it gets to be go time, come tournament time. Can you put the ball in the basket? At some point, you're going to have to score 85, 90 points to win a game, and obviously Florida can absolutely do that. So they're a team that, and it's not just because they beat Kentucky. I really like their personnel, and I really think if they do get into the tournament, they can give somebody fits, and I think they're going to give whoever they play in the SEC fits going forward the rest of the regular season.
So I was looking at this schedule here. I mean, this is a crazy Saturday. Houston at Kansas.
Crazy.
Duke at North Carolina, Iowa State at Baylor, Tennessee at Kentucky. My gosh, I mean, these are blockbuster ball games. So many of them are in the Big 12. Which one of these games stands out to you? Which are you most excited about?
Well, I'll give you another one, too. UConn going to St. John's. Obviously, St. John's with Rick Pitino. They played earlier. It was right before Christmas, so a lot of people didn't watch it. And bluntly, it was in Connecticut, and St. John's probably, I don't want to say they should have won that game, but they absolutely could have won that game. And so I just bring it up because even that game with the number one team in the country, I think it is going to have some challenges. I bring it up to say, as far as the other games, listen, Duke Carolina is interesting because they're obviously the biggest brands in the ACC, but that doesn't always mean you're the best teams. And this year they are the two best teams. One game separates them in the loss column. So this is very much for first place in the league. And so that one intrigues me, but I'll also say this from the Kentucky perspective, and you know, I love coming on your guys' show because you follow the whole conference, is if Kentucky loses this game at home, I will say I think the fan base was really, really enjoying the first half of this year. But Wednesday night, that loss to Florida in the manner in which it happened, you had a lead. You could have followed up 3. You decide not to. You end up they end up forcing overtime, losing in overtime. This is starting to feel a lot like the last couple of years, guys. It really is the situation where trending. You're gonna make the tournament, but are you really a threat? You're trending towards like a 4, 5, 6 seed, and as we know, with that fan base, that's not good enough. And so you lose this game. You're now, I think, 5-4 in SEC play, something like that. Very much behind the 8 ball. It's just, if they lose that game, it's going to be real headaches for that coaching staff coming out of the weekend. So those two games intrigue me, but I would say those two are definitely the most. I would say Kentucky probably has as much at stake as anybody in the country this coming weekend.
You know, Arkansas, they've been inconsistent down to what point guard's going to play. He might play 34 minutes one game and then be a healthy scratch to the next game. Has Arkansas found something? Have they came together a little bit and kind of solidified anything that makes you think they could go on a little run here?
You know, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but I kind of do. And I said this after the Kentucky game is, so historically what Coach Muss has done, and I'm not an X's and O's expert, and I'm not going to claim to be, but basically he really always has had that guy, even dating back to the Nevada days, that he can put the ball in that guy's hands late, and that guy can just go make plays, get to the rim attack. You know, it was Mason Jones one year at Arkansas. It was obviously J.D. Note. Last year was Anthony Black. And so I bring it up because I don't know if he really knew who that guy was through the early part of the season. It feels like Tremont Mark has kind of been that guy and become that guy the last 2 games. And even in the Kentucky loss, I thought he played well, even though he did not get the win. And so he was obviously great offensively against Missouri the other night. And again, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up. I'm not going to start projecting out what the rest of the season looks like. But I do think you can absolutely go to LSU, get a win, and really build some momentum going into the next couple weeks. If you do beat LSU, I do think you can build some momentum. So yes, I have seen something. As I've said a few times, I don't want to get anybody's hopes up too high because I don't want to be that guy that oversells and underdelivers or whatever. But I do feel a little bit better about this team than I did probably a week or so ago. Can
you make everybody feel a little better about the idea of Muss staying at Arkansas? Aaron, this has been a crazy
weird.
I mean, regardless of outcomes of basketball games or everything, I mean, there are rumors about stuff that's happened in and out of the locker room. People are nervous that Muss is looking for jobs somewhere else. You know, you talked to. I don't think you've connected him to Louisville necessarily, but we're expecting Louisville to open up. That could start a chain reaction. You know, nobody wants Muss to leave here. Nobody does.
Well, and I think that's an important message in a turbulent season, if you will. And I think 99% of fans get that. But listen, all I'll say is this: is that it's interesting. Obviously everybody hears whispers, and one thing about our jobs is, you got to be careful about what whispers you come on air and talk about and which ones you don't. And I just bring it up solely to say you started to hear stuff, and it was crazy because I went on another show in Arkansas a few days ago, and they just kind of openly asked me about it, and I didn't know it had gotten that far. And so, to me, I still think, look, there are some really elite jobs that could potentially be available, including Louisville, that if you get that phone call, you at least have to listen. But to be clear, just because Louisville opens doesn't necessarily mean that he would be the top candidate, or, who knows? I think what I would say is a couple things, and cut me off if I'm going long, guys, is one, whatever job it is, you got to be a candidate to actually get it. I think that's some of the interesting conversation about Chris Beard as well. But two, I also think when you're losing, stuff like this starts to come out, and everybody's frustrated. And so maybe if you can get a little bit on a little bit of a winning streak, maybe that changes some things. And then I think the other thing is finally this, is that it's easy to sit there and say, this place is better, that place is better, whatever. I think we all know that Coach Muss has proven that Arkansas is a pretty good place to coach and have success. And so I just think that it's easy in January to speculate, oh, man, things are going sideways, everybody needs a fresh start or whatever. When push comes to shove and, a job actually opens up and you kind of get behind the hood and see what's available and what's not, I think it makes it a little tougher. Again, if I'm going long, forgive me, but I'll just give you a quick example. Like, I saw something about Arizona State the other day, okay? Tempe is a beautiful area. Arizona State next year will be in the Big 12, and I would argue it might be the worst job in the Big 12 next year. So that's just one example. I don't know what Coach Muss is interested in. I don't know if he's interested, but I've obviously heard the rumors like everybody else. But I think it's easy to speculate in January. I think it's a lot tougher to leave, especially a very good spot like Arkansas, come mid-March, late March, whenever all those jobs will open.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.